Hi YouTube, my name is Sean Park and welcome to another episode of Awkward Conversation. Today I'm here with Professor Denis Hamilton. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure, Sean.
So Professor, could you give a brief introduction of yourself, please?
Sure. Well, I've been teaching at Rutgers for about 10 years now, full-time since 2013. Teach both in the MBA program as well as undergraduate students. Primarily teach the Introduction to Management course and Business Policy and Strategy for the undergrads, and then Strategic Management, International Business for our MBA students.
So you've had a very successful career. What made you want to leave to teach here at Rutgers?
Well, I think it's something I always wanted to do. I always sort of had in the back of my mind that teaching was a career that I enjoyed. I had done some part-time teaching now and then, but something I really wanted to pursue. Honestly, when I came out of Wharton with my MBA, I had some great job offers. I had 4 young children, and the thought of spending another 5 years doing a PhD with a family to take care of, it didn't seem like it was a good choice at that time. So I sort of put it on the back burner, decided to go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity I had to join Johnson & Johnson, and went ahead and did that for 20 years. Very good run with them. So, and then as that wound down, I was able then to go back and pursue my PhD and then engage in teaching.
So you teach Intro to Management, which is a required course for any business student. Why should students learn management?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked me that question, because students ask me that. And, you know, particularly if it's a core course and it's a required course, students sort of feel like, wow, we're being forced to take this. We don't really have a choice. Management, every student, when they come out of business school, most likely is going to work for a manager. In some cases, some of them may actually be managers. And so understanding what management's about, how it works, what a manager is responsible for doing, I think better prepares students to go into the workplace and to be able to be supportive of their manager if they're in that sort of relationship, or to be a better manager if they're the ones who are going to have to supervise people when they come out.
So even if you don't want to manage people, it's still beneficial to learn management?
Yeah, I think so, and here's why. Even if you're a manager of one, you're only managing yourself. Learning how to plan your work, how to organize work, how to pursue objectives, how to measure your performance. All these skills that you learn in terms of how to manage others can also be applied to how to manage yourself to be more successful.
What's the best part about being a professor here at Rutgers?
Well, I think clearly the best part is the opportunity to work with students. We have some incredibly talented students here at Rutgers. The business school, because of its location, because of its reputation, attracts very talented students into the program. And my experience in working with them is they're eager to learn, they want to be successful, and so the opportunity to work with them and to help them do that is very rewarding if you're a professor.
What's the worst experience you've had with a student?
You know, honestly, I haven't had what I would call any disastrous experiences with a student. I think probably the two most difficult situations I encounter. One is if a student is cheating. That's an uncomfortable conversation to have. I feel bad for the student that they felt under so much pressure that they needed to do that. I'm a strong believer in academic integrity. When you cheat, you're being unfair, not to me, you're really being unfair to all the other students in that course. And so I feel a responsibility when I see it that I have to act on it. I think the second thing that's really difficult for me is when I have to fail a student. And in this introductory course, that course is designed to really challenge students to see if they understand basic principles of business. And if they don't, if they can't demonstrate that mastery, unfortunately, we do have to fail them. And having that conversation with a student is difficult because most of these students are not used to failing anything. I mean, they came here as good students, so so that can be an uncomfortable discussion. But I try to support them. I try to help them understand that this is their chance to kind of make a change and turn their situation around and move forward. So not something I like to do, but unfortunately must be done.
Some students think that your videos are a little boring and tedious.
Sure.
What do you think about that?
Well, I'm not surprised. I'm not an entertainer by training, you know, I wish I was more dynamic. I wish I was more humorous. I wish I could make those videos up to the standards that they might observe in YouTube with others. My role as a professor is to communicate that information to the best of my ability. So I try to do the best I can. I've tried to shorten them. They used to be longer. I've tried to get them into more 10, 15 minutes bites, so it's not so tedious to watch in those situations. One of the things that comes up often is they say, well, you're just kind of reading to the PowerPoint, or, you know, I could just do that. I don't think that's entirely the case. Part of it is the PowerPoints are specifically designed to summarize key material that's in the book. And as I'm presenting what I consider to be the summary of that material, I give the PowerPoint slide to make it easier for the students to follow along with what I'm doing. But I don't think just reading the PowerPoint by itself without some of the explanation I provide is adequate. So students will say sometimes, can I just review the PowerPoints, and would that be sufficient? For some students, maybe. But I think for many students, I do try to add examples from my work experience, or I do try to elaborate on some of the key points in order to make it more understandable for the student.
In class, you often emphasize the importance of right work done well.
Yeah.
What does that mean, and why is that important?
Well, the first thing is that when I think back on my own work experience, particularly as I began to work with more senior leaders, both at J&J and AIG, one of the things you learn is you've got to be concise when you're communicating with those folks. And for me, what I tried to do was think about what is the most concise way I can describe what management is. And as I looked at all of the material and preparing for this course and everything else, the simplest way I could describe management is right work done well. And what does that mean? Right work is about understanding what is the specific things you need to do in your role as a manager. If you're running a large business, that might mean creating a mission and a vision statement for the company. If you're a department manager, it's understanding what are your responsibilities as head of that department. If you're an individual performer, as we talked about before, what is your role within your department? What are you accountable for, responsible for? So the right work, first of all, is understanding what is it that needs to be done. The second aspect of right work also is understanding from a social responsibility standpoint, what are my obligations, not just to the shareholders, but to the communities, to the employees I work with, to suppliers that we may work with, to our customers. It's having a bigger view, if you will, of what those responsibilities are. And so I think it's important in that total concept of right work to see both of those things. Here's what I need to do. Here are my responsibilities beyond the business. Doing it well is simply doing it effectively and efficiently. Once you know what those things are you need to do, the right work, the next part is how do I do that effectively? How do I make sure I do it efficiently?
One of my professors have said that you shouldn't just major in management and leadership because no employers will hire you for a management position right out of college. Do you think that's a valid point?
Yes and no. So when students ask me for my opinion on that, the first thing I would say, and the hardest thing for students to do, and I had this problem, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So, I think it's hard to understand as a student where your path's going to take you, right? And so are there certain skills you can learn that no matter what path you pursue will help you? Certainly management and leadership are skills that are going to help you no matter what direction you go with your career. But the concept of will it be easy to get hired, the main people who look for management and leadership majors are often people looking for individuals to move into sales roles or account management roles, roles where they're going to be interacting with people, customers on a regular basis. So we do see recruiters coming here and wanting to talk to our leadership, management and leadership majors. But I would encourage students to pick a second discipline. And I think in terms of either accounting, finance, supply chain, I'm a big fan of the BATE major. And one of the things employers are telling us more and more is the importance of students being able to be problem solvers, being able to do critical thinking. And I think understanding the analytics of business enables you to do those things more effectively. The second key skill is the interpersonal, the emotional intelligence. And clearly that's where management and leadership can help you to develop those skills more fully. Yeah.
You studied accounting in college and you started off as an accountant, right?
Yes.
How did you work your way up to a very high-level position?
Well, I would say two things about that. I think, first of all, I think accounting was a great major. And it allowed me to get into public accounting right away, coming out of my degree program. And that, I think, was a good starting point for a career. Gave me a chance to see different kinds of businesses, work in a very professional environment. So those were all things that I think were important to building a foundation. But as far as how you advance in a career, what I would tell you is that I think two things are important with that. One is relationships. If I think about every job I ever had, each progression in my career, inevitably those opportunities were because of relationships that I had built with individuals along the way, who introduced me to people who were aware of me, that sort of thing. And I think those become critical to your career success. But it's not enough just to have friends, okay? At some point, you've got to build a track record of performance. You've got to deliver results. You've got to learn how to manage people effectively. And I think as you do the combination of building relationships and delivering results over time, your career path sort of evolves along both of those dimensions. And that's really how I progressed. I think I always knew that I had the ability to do more than I was being asked to do. But I also tried to be humble about that in terms of the way I approach leaders and ask for their advice on what I needed to do to be ready to move to the next level. I think you got to be open to hear what they say. And that's not easy sometimes. Sometimes the feedback is uncomfortable. It's not what you expect. And it's things that you feel aren't necessarily fair, that aren't consistent with your own view. But then once you realize they're giving you a great gift by sharing that feedback, and if you act on it, what you do is you gain their support. Then they're trying to help you to be successful because they see you are willing to change, you're willing to grow, and I think that was a big part of my success.
So you've worked in many different companies. What's the favorite company you've worked in?
Well, the one I worked in the longest, and clearly my most favorite, was Johnson & Johnson. I was there for 20 years, joined there coming out of Wharton. And the company, the values that it had, the people there, the opportunities I was given to advance fairly quickly, all made it such a positive environment. And I literally had the opportunity to work with our business leaders around the globe, spent almost 50% of my time in my last 15 years that I was there working with businesses internationally. And the chance to meet those business leaders in the various countries, to learn about their cultures, to learn about their approaches to doing business, was just incredible. I mean, I almost felt guilty getting paid for doing that work. And the opportunity to help them to see how their businesses would improve based on the things I was able to help them do was very rewarding.
What's the company culture like at Johnson & Johnson?
Well, At the time I was there, it was all about the credo. It was about the value system. When you would talk to these leaders and you'd say, what brought you to J&J? Inevitably, or invariably, they would say, it was the credo, it was the values, it was this commitment the company had to doing the right thing. And I think that was pretty powerful for me. As I looked at my opportunities coming out of Wharton, I was blessed to have a lot of options, and that was powerful in my decision to join with J&J was those values, and to be a part of healthcare, to be a part of making people's lives better.
Can you share one fun memory from your time at J&J?
Oh gosh, I have so many. I mean, I had such great colleagues that I worked with, to draw on any one of those things, I'll tell you one of the most emotional moments was I was winding up my career, and I knew I was going to be leaving J&J in the next few months, and I was doing a trip to Australia, and I went out and met with the president of our medical device business in Australia. And I was in his office, and he and I had worked together several times on multiple projects from before he became head of that business. When he was basically a marketing director in the business, I had helped him with some projects, and then saw him become vice president of marketing and then move into the managing director role. So we'd had a long history together. And I remember him just sort of sitting at the table, and he said, "I want to give you a gift." He gave me this book about Australia and the history of the medical device business that he had signed with a nice note. And he said, "I'm going to be leaving soon too. I haven't told anybody in the company yet, so nobody knows. Please don't share it." And it was just a moment where all the work you had done over your career in trying to help people be successful, it sort of impacted me at that moment. That this was really more about people than anything else. It was about the relationships that you create when you get a chance to work with people.
On your LinkedIn page, you said you helped deliver $4 billion in profit improvement at J&J. How were you able to do that?
Well, I wish that I'd done it myself. I mean, I can't take all the credit for that. We had a great leader in Ralph Larson who believed strongly in quality and in excellence in everything that we did. And he came to our group. I was part of a corporate group, and came to us and he said, "Look, I believe we have an opportunity to take J&J to the next step. And I want you guys to think about what it is that's going to get us there." And I've heard about Six Sigma, I've heard about business assessment and the Baldrige stuff. Talk to me about the things we need to do. And so there was a group of us, there were about 4 of us, worked as a committee, and we went out, we benchmarked, we looked at all of these different approaches to doing things. Some of the people had experience working in other companies, American Express and GE, and companies that had already done a lot of the work like this. And we basically came forward with a proposal to adopt a J&J customized version of Six Sigma and to adopt the Baldrige assessment model. We had been doing assessments up to that time for our businesses as part of an awards program, but to really embrace it and to use it more broadly to help businesses improve. And with that, 3 things. We said, look, we need the executive committee to take full ownership of this. We need to go out and hire experts in these areas. And third, we need to invest in a broad scope training program to build the capabilities for our businesses and people to do this work. And we put those 3 pieces together. We began to identify projects on a large scale that could make a huge difference for the company. We did literally thousands of projects, and the finance group independently verified the impact of those projects. So cumulatively, over about a 4-year period, we did almost $4 billion of financial impact to the bottom line of J&J. A lot of it recurring. A lot of it was not just one time, but benefits that would accrue to the future. So Ralph was delighted, the executive committee was delighted. We built that capability within J&J and it became part of the culture of the company.
You've also worked at AIG.
Yes.
How is AIG different from Johnson & Johnson in terms of company culture?
Well, it's night and day, okay? So, I mean, clearly J&J is a company that in the medical device and pharmaceutical and consumer products had a strong reputation for high quality. AIG is not that their quality wasn't high, but it was a company that had earned its reputation by providing good insurance products at a very competitive price. So they were much more of a cost leadership business, if you remember from Introduction to Management, versus say differentiator, which was J&J. So those cultures become very different as a result of those philosophies. The opportunity, AIG recruited me strongly to come in and try and help them build improvement to their operations organization, to look at how to build centers of excellence on a global basis to both improve the quality and well as make it more efficient. And that was a great opportunity. But unfortunately, my timing was bad and was there during the financial meltdown. AIG was sort of at the epicenter of that. And so a lot of the work that I did there actually had to be undone so they could sell off businesses in order to meet their obligations.
Let's end this interview by asking you to give advice to students, just general advice.
Well, my general advice would be take advantage of this great opportunity you have here at Rutgers Business School. You've got a great set of colleagues and your students. These are talented people that you're with. Get to know them, make friends, build those relationships. You never know where they're going to go. I think take advantage of the outstanding faculty that we have here in the business school. Take advantage of the great location we have here in New Jersey with so many companies nearby. You know, literally hundreds of companies coming to recruit our talent. You know, it is a terrific opportunity. And you really only get one chance to embrace it and to make the most of it. So I would encourage you to do that. It's not always easy with all the competing interests you have and other things you could be doing. So take advantage of this great opportunity you have. And if people like myself, or I'm sure other faculty can help you along the way, then please call on us. Most of the people I talk to here who teach are doing this for the same reasons I do. They want to help students be successful. So draw on their experience and come talk to us.
Thank you so much.
All right, my pleasure. Thank you.